This one skill will help Luka Doncic become the most unstoppable player in the NBA. And are the Mavericks a top 4 team in the Western Conference going into this season? This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. Are the Mavericks a top 4 team going into the Western Conference this season? And Luka Doncic has to do this one thing to become the most unstoppable offensive player in the NBA. ESPN put together a really interesting article on what if skills that could change the game for these 4 NBA players, and Luka Doncic was featured in one of them. Per ESPN's Tim McMahon, Luka Doncic last year shot 73% from the free throw line and was one of 9 players who shot 48% or better from mid-range on at least 175 attempts last year. 7 of the other 8 shot 85% or better from the free throw line. So just imagine if Luka Doncic, who shot 73% from the free throw line and is a career 73.5% free throw shooter, shot around 80% from the free throw line. Not only has he become a 3-level scorer in the NBA, he's also developed a really good mid-range game, continues to improve on his 3-point field goal percentage, including the step-back three-pointer. But one of the things that we know about Doncic throughout his early years in the NBA, even though he's a 2-time first-team All-NBA performer, is that when you foul him, he tends to struggle at the free throw line. So if Doncic can find himself becoming an 80% free throw shooter while continuing to improve each of the levels of his offensive game, whether it be getting to the bucket where he shoots over 60% inside the lane, developing and continuing to develop the mid-range game that he already has while continuing to grow and become a better, more accurate three-point shooter than he has throughout his career, you could find and be really in a position to think that Doncic could average a triple-double for multiple seasons in his career. And not only average a triple-double, but 30 points per game when it comes to those triple doubles. That is how good he can be if he improves his free throw shooting. Because one thing that teams have found out about him is that you can't defend him pretty much when it comes to things off the dribble, getting into the lane. His passing and his vision are unparalleled in the NBA. But if you can get physical with him and get him at the line, while most of the time he's going to overpower guys by getting to the rim by using his 6'7" frame and being able to out-muscle guys getting to the rim, putting him on the line isn't necessarily a bad idea with his struggles that we've seen at the line throughout his career so far. So I'm sure as Doncic continues to improve and gets ready to go into his 4th NBA season, coming off his 2nd consecutive All-NBA first-team selection, that free throw shooting is on his mind. That's one of the things that LeBron James has struggled with throughout his career, is his ability to be a consistent free throw shooter. If Luka Doncic can improve that part of his game, he will help elevate this Dallas Mavericks team to potentially a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Last year, of course, the Mavericks were the 5th seed, 42-30 on the year, with an offensive rating of 114.6, 8th in the NBA, was 21st, though, in the NBA, with a defensive rating of 112.3. Jason Kidd has talked about this team needing to pay attention more to the details of becoming a better defensive team. The Mavericks have had a worse than average defense in 8 of the last 9 seasons, though last season was their first in the bottom 10 since the 2013-2014 season. So obviously an area of improvement for the Mavericks needs to be had when it comes to their defensive play, which is no stranger to us. Reggie Bullock, of course, brought over from the New York Knicks, is a really good defender who could defend multiple positions, can shoot over 40% from the three-point line. Sterling Brown is the same way, a guy who can guard multiple positions as an athletic 3-and-D guy who can shoot from the three-point line. But one thing that the Mavericks will have to make sure that they improve on is not only Luka Doncic's usage rate, which last year in the playoffs was at 39.9%, but improve when he's off the floor. Last year in the playoffs, the Mavericks scored 118.3 points per 100 possessions in his 281 minutes on the floor and just 83 points per 100 possessions in his 55 minutes on the bench. That has to change for a Mavericks team to become more balanced. You brought back Tim Hardaway Jr. on a 4-year, $74 million plus deal. Can he continue to become the third player on this team who continues to provide that kind of scoring night in and night out? And more importantly, for Kristaps Porzingis, Can he be the guy who last year, alongside Luka Doncic, had a true shooting percentage of 63.8%, get back to being the kind of defensive player that he was during his first few seasons in the NBA? A guy who was averaging well over 2 blocks per 36 minutes and was holding guys to just 52% from inside shooting on him, where now, of course, that has gone over 60% last year. His lack of defensive presence, whether it be rim protecting or shot blocking, has become a real problem for this team. It will need to improve going forward. Because, of course, teams like the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Utah Jazz are all the class of the Western Conference right now, with the Mavericks right in between teams like the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Blazers. Some of these teams dealing with injuries to some of their biggest stars on their squads, namely the Los Angeles Clippers are going to be without Kawhi Leonard for most of this upcoming year. Also, the Denver Nuggets dealing with the torn ACL of one Jamal Murray. So there's opportunities for this Mavericks team to realistically be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, and more importantly, avoid the dreaded play-in situation. The Mavericks could use home court advantage in the first round of the NBA playoffs to ensure themselves gaining the kind of momentum throughout a 7-game series that could be at a disadvantage to you when you obviously do not have home court advantage, knowing that fans will be back in the stands at full capacity for NBA games this season after last year dealing with the COVID-19 protocols in the NBA, where fans for a lot of the time were not able to get into arenas until late in the playoffs. You saw what kind of dramatic effect that the Mavericks fans, the MFFLs, had on the momentum energy of games against the Clippers in their first round series against Los Angeles. So for the Mavericks to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference, improving defensively is obviously going to be the name of the game. How Luka Doncic continues to grow and how he forges his relationship with new head coach Jason Kidd, and more importantly, can Kristaps Porzingis get back to the rim protector and shot blocker that he's capable of being, while also being a 20-10 guy that is able to do some of the kinds of things that Jason Kidd wants him to do when he was in New York. Can he be a guy that puts the ball on the deck? Can he find himself getting to the rim while also being an efficient three-point shooter that stretches defenses night in and night out? Porzingis' physical limitations may not allow him to do some of those things, but he is definitely more than the offensive decoy that you saw in the NBA playoffs against the Los Angeles Clippers, thanks to former head coach and your man Rick Carlisle. So for the Mavericks, there are certain areas that they can improve in. Obviously, being a more consistent rebounding team, being able to defend better night in and night out, and more importantly, Luka Doncic to Kristaps Porzingis getting and remaining on the same page. People forget that last season, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis were the most efficient pick-and-roll duo in the NBA last year. Can they build upon that and may it not look nearly as awkward as it did last year? And if they can, this is a Mavericks team that can find themselves in the top 4 of the Western Conference this upcoming season. But a lot of this is going to hinge on Luka Doncic's continued improvement at the free throw line, but also defensively, the Mavericks getting back to where they're capable of being and not being in the bottom 10 of NBA defenses this upcoming year. Because if they are, they will find themselves, yes, outscoring a lot of folks night in and night out, but more importantly, they won't win in the postseason the way that they believe that they're capable of, because they can't defend and stop anybody. When you start thinking about the Suns, the Lakers, and the Jazz, and those teams in front of them, and an improving Golden State Warrior team that will see the return of one Klay Thompson. So we will see if the Mavericks can find themselves improving defensively, but more importantly, getting together with the kind of chemistry and continuity that Jason Kidd and Luka Doncic have echoed throughout this offseason. And maybe the acquisition of Goran Dragic wouldn't hurt either. But we'll find out as training camp gets started here within the next 3 to 4 weeks. In other Mavericks news, the Mavericks worked out a trio of guards looking to get back in the NBA. Lance Stephenson, Monta Ellis, former Dallas Maverick, of course, and Isaiah Thomas. Lance Stephenson last played in the NBA back during the 2018-2019 season with the Los Angeles Lakers, and at age 30 is trying to find himself back in the league. Isaiah Thomas recently worked out with LeBron James and company. Last played in just 3 games last season with the New Orleans Pelicans and started 37 games back during the 2019-2020 NBA season, averaging 12.2 points per game with the Washington Wizards. Monta Ellis, on the other hand, former Dallas Maverick from 2013 to 2015, last played in the NBA with the Indiana Pacers during the 2016-2017 year. And as a Maverick, of course, played in 162 games, averaged 19 points per game. So As we talked about during the offseason, the Mavericks were trying to find a playmaking point guard or a playmaking guard, secondary ball handler, creator, whatever you want to find that the Mavericks needed to try and get this offseason. Maybe a guy in Isaiah Thomas who, according to Shams Charania, who reported that these three worked out with the Mavericks, appears to be in great shape. And if he is, maybe you take a flyer on a guy like Isaiah Thomas, who, of course, had his heyday with the Boston Celtics. Monta Ellis and Lance Stephenson seem like long shots at this point to try and make it back to the NBA, especially with this Mavericks team. But Isaiah Thomas may make a lot of sense. A guy who, yes, is a diminutive point guard, but at the same time can handle the ball, can score, and can make plays for himself and for others. It would be interesting to see Isaiah Thomas on this particular iteration of the Dallas Mavericks, but nonetheless, the opportunity maybe for him to find him reclaiming what he believes is an NBA spot for him on a roster with the Dallas Mavericks, which would make for a very interesting one if he were able to do so. A reclamation project he would be definitely, but at the same time, Jason Kidd and this Dallas Mavericks coaching staff may find it intriguing for Isaiah Thomas to be a part of this squad. As I mentioned, 12.2 points back in the 2019-2020 NBA season where he started 37 games with the Washington Wizards. So, hey, who would you like to see the Mavericks sign? If you had to choose one of the three, Lance Stephenson, Monta Ellis, or Isaiah Thomas, which one would you sign? I guess we'll find out for the Dallas Mavericks. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. It's been another episode of The Gray Area. I'll talk to you later. Peace.